But the reality is when there is psychological safety at organizations, you have more robust solutions, you have better solutions, you have more innovation, more productivity, more engagement, more customer satisfaction. There's research behind all of this data. Less turnover, less quitting in place. And so to the extent that you can cultivate these kinds of work environments that support this, all of those positive work indicators, all those positive productivity types of indicators that the hard-nosed CFOs might care more about, right? Those positively influence those as well.
What's the business value of doing all this squishy people, gooey, emotional, full stuff work?
It's a great question because oftentimes there's this vision for some who may be less familiar or comfortable with it. They envision, holding hands and singing kumbaya and so forth, and it's not that, right? It can morph into that if there's mutual comfort in going to more of that. But the reality is when there is psychological safety at organizations, you have more robust solutions, you have better solutions, you have more innovation, more productivity, more engagement, more customer satisfaction. There's research behind all of this data. Less turnover, less quitting in place. And so to the extent that you can cultivate these kinds of work environments that support this, all of those positive work indicators, all those positive productivity types of indicators that the hard-nosed CFOs might care more about, right? Those positively influence those as well. So it behooves us to take a look at these organizations beyond just. It should be enough for the ethical and moral reasons, right? But if that's not enough, there's a very clear business case for the ROI on leading well and leading holistically. In addition, to make it a no-brainer, these are important things to pay attention to.
For those of us who aren't super comfortable talking about all these things, how can we start talking about these things with our colleagues and our management chain?
So I say start small, right? Start small. So thinking about, for example, we have a lot of meetings in work contexts, right? And so starting with the way we run our meetings is a really good starting point. So thinking about if you're a formal or informal leader on a team, for example, thinking about the behaviors that we want to emulate and working to model those intentionally. Thinking about the opportunities to articulate some group norms. And if they haven't been articulated before, talk about, hey, how do we want to run this meeting? What does a good meeting look like here, right? It doesn't have to be the pie in the sky kind. Let's be very pragmatic and tactical to start with and say, what's working well with these meetings? How can we do more of that? What do you find most helpful? What would you like to see, right? When we can invite dissent and constructive feedback. I mean, a complaint is a wish not fulfilled, right? And so if we can focus on what's going well and elevate the thinking, but also like, hey, what else could we do to do these better, and do it in the context of what I like to call an abundance mindset, where it's not just a bitch session, if you will, but really say, hey, how can we take a look at these things that are going well? What are the other additional opportunities we have to improve these? Those are very small, but the amount of time we spend in meetings, for example, if you can improve your meetings and start there, you're making good progress, right? So that would be one really tactical thing to do. I think some other things that are really important is being in touch, particularly as a leader, but all of us, we all lead, right? Whether we're anointed with a particular formal authority title, we all have opportunities to lead in terms of how we model and support one another and so forth. But being in touch with our EQ, our emotional intelligence, if you will, recognizing that we all have emotions. Right, and this is where some of the squishy stuff, coming back to the point about your original question about bringing our whole self to work, we're going to come to work with our emotions, right? We don't have control over the fact that we're going to have emotions. We're all going to have our emotions, right? What we can control and influence is how do we respond to those emotions, right? How do we model good responses if there's something that's particularly triggering or angering or frustrating or whatever whatever it might be. How can we model good pauses in the moment, good responses, healthy responses, helping folks give space to process, without it becoming a therapy session, right? We can still acknowledge the humanity in others, right? And give time and space and apologize when we need to. So really getting in touch with the EQ components, and that's easier said than done, but that's a skill like anything else that can be learned by teams and by leaders. The other thing I would offer is creating intentionally a culture of psychological safety. And so inviting dissent, inviting contrary opinions. And when you get them, actually embracing them. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to agree with them or you necessarily need to adopt that. But hey, Michael, I really appreciated that challenge you offered me there. That was really helpful. It caused me to think about X, Y, and Z that I hadn't considered before. And modeling that as a leader can go a long way towards creating that psychological safety to help as well. So those are a few sort of cursory thoughts that I'll offer there.
Thank you. The modeling is so important. One way I found really helpful to start that sharing and build some of that psychological safety is to run the perfection game on the way your team works. Go through all your activities that you do on a day-to-day basis and larger timescales. And for each thing, each person, just how perfect is that for you? And the rules here are, if you don't have anything concrete ideas to make it better, then it's 10 because you don't know how to make it better. So it must be perfect. If you have an idea to make it twice as good, then then it's a 5. And if you have an idea to make it 10 times as good, then you're a 1. And then you can interpolate other values in between.
Uh-huh.
This gives people a really easy way in hardly any time at all. Just go around the room. The way we run meetings, Patrick, Michael, Jose, Andrea, Mario, 10, 10, 9, 10, 5, 1, 0, negative 18. And so you can quickly, just in real time, go through everybody, through all the things, and get a really clear picture. If there are things for everyone is like 1, that's something I go after. And if it's something that most people are a 10 and 1 or 2 people are an 8 or a 5, then those have some room for improvement and not as important to do right away. And things that maybe everyone complains about all the time, but everyone says is a 10, maybe it's not as horrible as we think it is. Or maybe that's a really interesting thing to go inquire into more, because if we all think it's horrible and yet we don't have any ideas on how to make it better, then something doesn't match up.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what I love about tools like that, right? You can test these out within your organization and on your teams, right? And because some of these are contextual, and some things may work better or others in different contexts. But having an attitude, hey, I think, let's give this process or this framework or this tool a try for this meeting or this quarter or this month or whatever it might be, and naming that and experimenting with some of those new meeting structures or practices. And seeing what's helpful and having an attitude of experimentation can be really powerful.
And it can be a really good way to get into talking about preferences.